Hi everyone, welcome to our second Revolt session. My name is Gus Murray and I'm the Managing Director here at Revolt, and today we'll be welcoming Carolyn from Eat Grim. She's the CMO and co-founder of Eat Grim, and today she's going to be talking about how they're changing our perception of ugly vegetables and how they're trying to reduce waste by changing consumer preferences. If you have any questions for Carolyn, please leave them in the thread below the post on LinkedIn. And otherwise, let's welcome Carolyn. Welcome, Carolyn. Thanks for joining us here today. Maybe if you could just start off with a quick introduction to yourself and your journey and how you arrived at the point of creating Eat Grim.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Carolyn Schiemer. I am the co-founder and CMO of Eat Grim. And what we do at Eat Grim, we are a marketplace for what we call ugly by nature and surplus organic fruits and vegetables, which we actually save from farms from going to waste. And we bring these produce to the market in form of our food box subscription that we ship to private consumers, but also by supplying food businesses and institutions who want to source more sustainably. And at Eat Grim, I work with everything communication, so the brand marketing, sustainability, communication, partnerships, stuff like that.
And can you tell us a little bit about how you guys arrived at the concept, like the journey from a sustainability or how you guys, and then also from an entrepreneurship perspective, arrived at creating this entity to save all our ugly vegetables out there?
Save all the veggies, absolutely. So actually it started out with my co-founder Petra and me. We met at CBS, Copenhagen Business School, when we studied entrepreneurship, innovation and sustainable business, and we just really hit it off from the start and decided to do all our projects together in school. And we were both really interested in food, but didn't really have a food or agricultural background. So we kind of approached it with, fresh eyes and really just wanted to learn more about specifically food marketing. So we were interested to understand how certain food items who may be previously unknown and has been grown by indigenous communities for thousands of years, all of a sudden get discovered by what we call the global West, marketed, and then all of a sudden, you can experience, for example, environmental issues or maybe issues in social economic issues in the growing communities. So kind of like looking at food with this marketing eyes, we really understood how complex global food systems are, and that some actors have the power while others don't. And that just seems really unfair to us. And then we kind of wanted to know if the same logic applies to Denmark as well. And then we looked at an issue in today's society, and we chose food waste. So really trying to understand how food waste happens, not like preconceptualizing a solution, but really understanding how it happens. And we talked to different actors and also then understood that, there's supermarkets who reject up to 30% of everything that's grown simply because it is weirdly shaped, too big, too small, has some scratches on the surface, so our ugly produce, what we call it. And then also there's a big issue of overproduction, because a farmer, if they know they can't sell 30% of what they're growing, they have to overproduce. And then often, like this is kind of what we found. And we also saw there was a lot of solutions already existing to help consumers at home reduce food waste, like Too Good To Go, if you know them. But nothing really helping the farms. And this is really where we saw our sweet spot to come and do something about it.
Can you explain a little bit of when you started Eat Grim originally, the early days and how you built up the company and how you identified the farmers and the consumers and your sort of go-to-market strategy and that sort of things?
Sure. So again, maybe you have to understand also that Petra and I were both foreigners. So I'm from Germany, she's from Finland. So we kind of first just started calling farmers, say like, hey, Heather Carolyn with like, shitty Danish. And maybe farmers are a little bit more on the traditional end, so you never really know how they react to you. And then we asked, do you have waste? And they're like, no, of course not. Like, farmers are really proud. That's something we had to learn. And then we started again framing the question differently and asked, do you have products you can't sell? And all of a sudden the answer was different. They're like, yes, we do. Of course, there's like blah blah blah, all this issue, ugly produce, surplus, we don't know what to do with it because there's no marketplace for you for these things. Basically. So this is how we started on the farmer side, and then on the consumer side, did a few Facebook posts, found some people who wanted to try it out, and then slowly started to grow it from there. We also got into an incubator actually called InnoFounder by Innovation Fund Denmark, that really helped us as well to get some money together to start developing the first website and prototype and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about the consumer side, like how you took something that was traditionally perceived as a imperfect or ugly product that didn't meet the standards set by supermarkets or some of the food retailers, and then get consumers to sort of say, okay, it's a carrot after all, like it may not look like the perfect carrot in the supermarket, but how you guys went about shifting or understanding consumer perception that way and preference.
So I think what we really understood was there was a missing connection between the consumers and how the food is grown, and especially who is growing the food. And actually the same applies for food businesses too. Like a lot of chefs, maybe in more like bigger institutions, often have no, real knowledge or even experience with working with farms. And on the other hand, the farms don't really know what the consumers want. So it's like this big black hole of nobody really knows what, how things happen here. And this is where we really saw also for us the chance to, come in and maybe put more attention to the different communities that are touched by food, right? So kind of reconnecting people with food, that's a really important thing that we do in everyday communication as well. So we do a lot of like community building, like, we have, let's say, there's like different Facebook group, where consumers can exchange recipes, but also we tell the stories of our farmers. We do like special boxes on occasions like Christmas, where we invite chefs to make recipes. So like all these like community highlighting things. So we really see like our brand also as a platform to showcase talent.
Now you have a name that you call your community
Grumblings.
members. Exactly. And tell us a little bit about how you, like how that came about and how the naming of your community members occurred and how much they influence what you guys do and the way you communicate as a brand.
Oh, that's a good question. So how did the whole grumbling thing start? Well, I think maybe it goes back a little bit to just in general, like how we decided to communicate about our brand. We thought that like a lot of sustainable products are maybe more in the whole, like, sorry to say, but like tree hugging way of communicating, making people feel slightly depressed about what's going on in the world rather than uplifting and positive and fun and joyful communication. And I think just if you have that like approach in general on communication and brand building and even naming your products, like we have products called Mini and Mean or Small and Ugly, I think you come up with things like grumblings, right? And I think we just noticed on an ongoing basis, like that, people were so willing to share on Instagram their recipes. Like we didn't know what to do with all these things. So like if you have such an active community of people, then you need to give them something to exchange and inspire each other. Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about how you guys are fostering that community and the different initiatives and activities that you do to engage them and how they're helping you in other ways as well. Like you talked earlier about, volunteers and stuff like that. Like,
so actually Eat Grim it started out with help of volunteers because, we are a self-financed startup. We are first-time founders straight out of university. We don't really have rich parents to back us up or any investors, so we really had to rely on the help of our community to get this thing off the ground. And in the beginning, we just started asking our friends. They happily helped out, packed the boxes, got some veggies in return, fine. And then we, as soon as we started communicating on social media, we got random people just messaging us, hey, do you need extra hands? I would love to come. I would love to join this. And that's just really powerful. And as soon as we could hire them, we actually did. So if you look at our warehouse now, it's all of the old volunteers, that came there as well. So that's also for us a way of giving something back to the communities. Another thing we do is we work with local pickup spots. So actually, when we started with pickups, we got a lot of mixed feedback, mostly negative, saying oh, are you sure? This is not really a scalable way. You have to be focusing on fast growth and so on. And a lot of people said, don't do that. But we said, no, we think actually it's a really good idea because we can see that there's such a deep connection with the product that we have. So we have to embed it locally as well. So for us, that's the only right way. And, that's also something that we are actually thinking now in our scaling strategy going forward, to have that local pickup places. And you can now see that bigger brands who didn't have that previously are actually now looking into that. So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
And in terms of, you mentioned a little bit the connection from your community to your product and what you guys are doing. Can you speak more to why people are so passionate about this, and at the end of the day, it's a vegetable and it's a box, but what is the deeper thing that you guys are tapping into?
That's a really good question, and we were asking these questions ourselves for a really long time until we did a little bit of digging and really understanding our customers. And so what we found is, with focus groups, interviews, surveys, and so on, is that the reason why people join Grim, it's always about the concept. It's always they buy into the concept, and that's great. That's a great starting point. But if you start to understand what people actually name as sustainability, the answers are totally they're so vast. There is thousands different definitions of sustainability and what it means to them. And for some reason, I think our product is able to capture most of them. I wouldn't say all of them, but a really big aspect of things. Food waste is one, but then maybe organic is another one. Maybe direct, a connection to farms and knowing where your produce comes from is a third, and maybe also what could be a factor as well is that, maybe we're a female-founded company. We're embracing values like diversity and inclusion, and I think also that message resonates quite a lot with big audience, especially younger groups.
Can you talk a little bit about your core consumer or your community?
Yes,
in that respect?
Absolutely. So we found that. We have a huge group of millennials. It sounds so, I don't even want to use the word millennials, but I'm one too, hey. But that is really our core target group, mostly people living in urban areas, but it also has to do with the fact that right now we deliver only in more or urban dense areas, but it's really this younger, super engaged, super conscious group of consumers.
And what about in terms of the connection, because you guys are a direct-to-consumer, subscription-based business? Can you talk a little bit about that ability to actually talk directly to consumers versus go through a third party like a retailer or something else, and how that as a brand changes the way you interact with your customers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing. Like, I think we have so much opportunity to do that, you know, like every week. I mean, you know, there's like a different leaflet with a different story. Like, we always like do like highlight the storytelling part, and it's really on a weekly basis, depending, kind of like connecting it to back what's in the box and so on. And that's also really like a principle of us, is like speaking directly with them, not just to or about them, you know, and we can get a lot of real-time feedback super fast as well. So for us, it's a great way to also see how we're doing there, you know.
Can you talk about the feedback side? Like, how do you, what type of feedback do you get from your community, and how do you use that?
I mean, it's like there's like different ways. Like, of course, like you know, like just the more, let's say, soft feedback that you get like on like daily interactions, especially on social media, but also from customer support. But we also do like measures like NPS score for our boxes. So that's for us like a really direct way to get instant feedback on, more specifically, you know, how the are you likely to recommend eGrim to somebody else, and also like getting direct feedback on the quality of the produce in the boxes.
That's maybe a good sign, but like, how is in terms of acquiring new customers, like, how do you guys typically get your customers? Is it like through paid media? Like, what sort of channels are you able to capture? Obviously, social is a big platform.
So like a lot of like paid digital marketing, right? Like a lot of activities are going on there, but actually referrals is super high. So like there's like obviously different types of referrals, but we just did a rough calculations. About 26% of all our customers come through us because they've been referred from somebody else. It could be a customer. We have referral program, right? It could be through like affiliate. It could be through influencers and so on. Yeah.
How important is social media to your strategy of like marketing and communication and referral network?
Well, it is super important, right? I mean, that's kind of like also because maybe we are, let's say, millennials, the digital natives ourselves. This is obviously like the media we are like most comfortable with as well, communicating. But we actually also did a little bit of out of home, which is a bit more traditional. So like we used that for when we launched in Aarhus, we had like a big poster campaign. That was really, really nice, really fun. So kind of like a nice mix between more like physical things and digital, yeah.
And what about in terms of, like we talked about, like growing the customer base, and you guys get a lot through referrals. What about in terms of like, how is that translated through the period we've just gone, or we're currently going through with Corona, and the impact of all of us being stuck at home and spending a lot more time online, and what impact that's had for you guys? Yeah,
absolutely. It had a huge impact, both positive and negative. So first of all, like what happened is that our food boxes just skyrocketed. Like, you know, people want to have their food delivered home on a subscription basis. Perfect. So that part of the business, like I think when Corona first hit, like we instantly doubled our sales, and also throughout the year, like achieved like 4x growth, which is pretty decent. However, to the B2B side of things, which previously was about 10% of our revenue, now it's like 1-2. So you can see. But I think also the most important thing for us to realize is also how important it is to have a holistic business model, right? Like we could see that some of the really like big giants, like a wholesaler, had to go went bankrupt because obviously they only catered B2B, whereas we having both, you know, it could have played out either way. So I think this is also just really interesting to think further in, like to really diversify your business model and not just do one thing. Yeah.
In terms of, like, you mentioned a little bit about like the importance of having that direct relationship with your customers and your community. How is that, like when you go to a B2B model, obviously you can't talk to the person that ate the product of the catering company or something, like, so how do you take your passion and enthusiasm in the community over to the B2B side?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you don't directly talk to the person who eats the lunch in the canteen, but you can talk to the purchasing manager or to the chef even. And, you know, what we have also realized is that, yeah, often like, you know, even chefs are, you know, missing the connection to the farms, and the farms missing the connection to what food they should produce for the kitchens and so on. So it's, again, really just about like bringing them together and, you know, not like also being that middle partner who can directly communicate, you know, like bring them together. So maybe the sales happens in a different way, but it's still all about relationships and, you know, buying in on the same values. And I mean, I don't know, like Denmark, they have a huge agenda as well to push organic produce, to reduce food waste. So if that is as well, you know, kind of facilitating these conversations, yeah.
And what about in terms of, like we've talked a lot about the consumer side and your community and the core audience. On the farmer side, like how is that, like how have those farmers which don't, or you found, don't waste anything but have a bunch of food that is not being sold, how have they responded to the concept, and how has that been from that side, from the supply side?
So actually it's a great question. So when we first came and said like to the farms, hey, we have this idea, how about we just buy your vegetables and, you know, sell it? And they were like, yeah, well, good luck with that. We heard that before. We had others like you coming as well. So, you know, like apparently there was already like some sort of thoughts from other people there, but nobody really has done it, you know. And I think as soon as you give them the first paycheck, and then they're like, okay, that makes sense. Now I get it. I'm with you. So that's really it. You know, farmers are so pressed on, you know, on what they can earn with growing vegetables. So for them, really, it's about also getting extra income and really getting more out of the love, time, and resources they invest in growing the food.
You talked a little bit before about the fact that there's this big disconnect between like the farmers on one end of the sort of supply chain and consumers on the other side. How have you guys approached that challenge of like filling that gap or connecting the two groups?
Well, I mean, we do a lot of storytelling, right? Like I think I already mentioned that, like running, like just like putting a lot of focus on the different communities that we interact with. That's kind of our responsibility, but also like just constantly feedbacking the farms as well. For example, you know, like we have like processes in place, so they also learn about how our customers, let's say, perceive the vegetables that they provide to us, you know. So it's also like just to create this like open feedback loop and transparency. I think transparency in general, it's a really important point, to mention there.
And what's sort of now you guys have been active for several years now. You've got a bunch of learnings and you've expanded and done really well by the sound of it through the Corona period in some respects. Like what's next for you guys in terms of the concept and the platform and also just expansion?
Yes, so I mean, we will launch in other cities in Denmark. So we have just launched in Odense last week. We're now like in Aarhus, Odense, soon will come Fredericia, Vejle, and then obviously on all of kind of Copenhagen and most parts of Sjælland. But also we're going to Sweden this year, just because, you know, why not? Though it's because we don't see ourselves as just a Danish brand or, you know, solution. It's a global problem we're tackling. So obviously we need to get out of here. So that's one part, the expansion. But then also we are looking to go more towards a grocery model. So, you know, we really need to make it easy for people to use our product. And what is really important to even think of, you know, add-ons, for example, like, you know, that people can purchase stuff that makes it easier for them to cook, with the boxes. So that's another really big part that we're working on this year.
You talked also about like developing a platform, so it's not just so much like subscription or add-ons and stuff like that. Can you expand on the platform side of things?
Exactly. So I mean, and maybe you've noticed that, like when I introduced Grim in the start, I didn't say we are Foodbox. I said we are a marketplace, and what we're building in the backend is actually a platform to connect supply and demand. And this we see as the backbone for also scaling and going to other places. Yeah.
That's super exciting. And what about in terms of like when you've touched on a little bit about sustainability and communities and stuff like that, like when talking to other brands, or just you know, if you were to give advice to other brands, like how would you what advice would you give them, or to help them out through both on a values-based and sustainability-focused one, but also on the way that you guys have gone directly to consumers and built that engagement and that relationship?
Yeah. Well, I think my first advice would be, don't be afraid to collaborate, because knowledge is out there, and I think especially, you know, if one sustainable brand succeeds, it will have positive effects on another one. So I really think there is a lot of potential for all of us to come together and lift each other up. So that's one really big advice. I think also activate your community, right? I think especially as a sustainable brand, like what you are selling in that sense, it's a value. So really staying close to the community and also giving them a space gives you as a brand really the chance to check in and see, okay, what am I doing here? Am I really on track, right? Or like what's really going on? So I think that would be a big advice for me, to activate communities.
And what about in terms of the demographic groups? Like you guys are obviously very much working or communicating directly to the millennials, because they have a much stronger affinity through the media and also maybe the business model and also the value alignment. Have you worked towards how you can reach outside of the millennial sort of demographic in that respect?
We have, we're looking into launching a family box as well, because families is also a big part of possible customers. I mean, we already have like, you know, families in there, but also again, like it's also like listening to the feedback that we get. You know, we know that sometimes like our box might be, you know, not super easy to use for families. So this is why right now we're also developing a family box, which we're going to launch very soon.
And can you talk a little bit about your product development, like how you guys are developing products and how that has changed over time as well?
Actually, there hasn't been so much change. I mean, we've basically have the same type of box in 3 different sizes. So that is the subscription box we have right now. And now, like again, you know, we do also like stay really in the loop with, let's say, cancellation reasons and so on, and churn, and why people churn. And that is where we learned that there is a big opportunity for us with the families. And also, you know, we had like another survey as well, where we asked people about their willingness to buy add-ons, for example, and we found that 75% of our customers want add-ons. So, you know, this is kind of like how we do product development as well, listening to the people, basically, giving them what they want.
And what about in terms of like when you go into new markets now with like, and you have is there any challenges in terms of like how you're going to like develop those markets in terms of the community and stuff like that? Have you, like, I don't know if you have an experience yet in terms of Sweden, if it's too early, but talk a little bit about how you're going to approach that with all the knowledge you have. Yeah,
that's a really, really good question. Also a really tough one, because we haven't started so much yet to look into that. But I mean, you know, I think again, like it starts out with like understanding the consumers. Some might say Swedes and Danes are similar, but no, they're not. So it's just really about like getting out there, testing, doing real tests, also getting partners there. I think like, you know, things that we do now with the collaborative approach, getting a pickup spot, all of that we can execute over there as well.
And in terms of like how much, when you guys have gone down this sustainability path, like how much has some of the like UN SDGs or any of these other things been influencing like your decisions or being part of the continual development of Eat Grim?
Oh, well, I get this question quite a lot, and it's funny because we have never really actively thought about the SDGs and things we do, because what we do, it is an SDG. It's like SDG number 12, like responsible consumption and production, right? This is the essence of what we do. So in that sense, like, you know, we don't like actively, we don't have to remind ourselves about, oh, there's an SDG, maybe let's look at them. It's so ingrained in everything we do. Yeah, basically that's what I can say about it.
That makes sense. And what about in any, in terms of some of the brands that we're seeing now that maybe don't come from more sustainable backgrounds or products or services that are slowly transitioning over to more sustainable products, like, do you have any advice for those type of brands that are going through that transition, or anything from the learnings you guys have had?
Well, I think I already mentioned a few, like the whole, like the community part, but you know, maybe it's more about like understanding, is there even a community out there, you know? And I think it's also like just having an honest look at what you're doing, and you know, like, you know, the thing is that we're all about, you know, transparent communication, and I really think that if you want to become more sustainable, you really have to ask yourself the hard questions of like, why are you not transparent? And so it probably starts first at yourself, looking at what you're actually doing and how much are you really willing to lay open. And if you're willing to do that, then you have a good chance, I guess. Yeah.
All right, but I'm now going to start, we're going to take some questions from the audience. Have Justina asking why you guys actually chose the subscription model as a starting sort of point.
Yes, the subscription model, I mean, it's you know, predictable revenue. I think that's a really good point. And again, like, if we want to change the way people eat, it's about changing habits, and getting a subscription, it's a product that you decide to let into your life. And for us, it just made sense to go with that one. We also actually have the possibility to buy a single box, but it's not really anything that we want to push too much. But now you know.
And can you tell us a little bit about the numbers of subscribers you have? And I don't know how much you can share, or
Yes, absolutely. So we have approximately 3,500 active subscribers at the moment. I think in total, since since we started 3 years ago, we served about 7,000 households. So that's what we're having at the moment. Yeah.
And I think you guys have also recently got investment.
Oh yes, we did. We got so. Yeah, maybe that's also an interesting thing to mention. Like, we've done like crowdfunding already twice now. So yeah, I think like a lot of impact startups often struggle with, you know, like the more like VC type of money. So we decided to also go the crowdfunding way, again, a way to activate our community. So we got, in the first crowdfunding, we had 140 investors from 27 countries, so quite nice. And then we repeated the crowdfunding again, end of last year, in a more like a smaller setting, and then that got backed up by Wächstfonden, so we got in total 4.6 million.
Oh, that's super.
Yeah, that's so nice.
And is that going to fuel the expansion into Sweden, or is that going to be put into the, like, is that basically where it's going to all go? Or?
Yes, so it's hiring, right? Also Swedish team and warehouse. So we really have to move out of our small space in Northwest. It's getting tight. So if you know a warehouse, please let us know. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, but I think we've just about wrapped up.
Great.
Now the time, so there's no other last points you would love to share with us or our audience?
No, just like if you are thinking of creating a sustainable brand, just have fun while you do it. That's the best part. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Carolyn, for joining us today for our session.
Thank you for having me.